offer any hope for the unemployed.
I think it's going to be very difficult to get it down significantly in 1983.
Drifters who'd strayed to London in the expectation of streets paved with gold and beacon lights that would guide them to prosperity.
He goes to the job centre. Well, where's you live? No fixed walls. Sorry, we can't help you with a job.
There's a growing army of younger people looking for work or a new life. What they need is a secure home and a job, but often they're denied either.
The first thing that they find is that London isn't what it appears to be on television.
They've often deliberately cut all links with the past, and this makes them an easy target for exploitation by criminals or con men.
It's an increasingly violent place, particularly for young people.
Love, Tilly's here. Just through here. Thanks. Oh, hey, Peter. Sorry it comes so early.
Just give me 2 seconds. There we go.
They said there should be some cricket pads.
Well, it's February. The boys won't need them till the summer term. I'm going to see them before then, surely.
Let me get them. I'm sorry, Peter.
It's not your fault.
Thanks. Sorry again for the intrusion.
Till, hang on a minute.
Look, I know you're trying to be a good friend to Carol, and I don't want you to get it in the middle. It can't keep going on like this. It's crazy. Whatever happened between me and her, the boys have got nothing to do with it. Please. I miss them.
I'll speak to her.
Thank you.
Morning. Anything on the overnight?
Not much. Another burglary in Wood Green, but that's about it.
Any witnesses?
I was only called in half an hour ago, Gov.
Can you take a statement on your way home?
The boss, yeah?
Yep.
Gov?
Yeah.
Steve called. They found suspected human remains in Muswell Hill in a drain.
Remains?
That's what he said.
Did he give you an address?
Yes, at 23 Cranley Gardens.
OK. If he calls again, tell him I'm on my way.
I thought you were giving up.
I am.
Mr. Catherine called this in.
All right.
How do you do?
I was telling the officer I was called here last night because of a blockage. There was a lot more, but when I got back this morning, it had gone.
Could it have unblocked itself?
No way. You'd have to get in there and clear it by hand. Plus, one of the ground floor tenants heard someone rooting around here last night.
Do you know how far the blockage goes up?
About halfway, but the middle flat's unoccupied, so it must have come from the top floor flat. He's the one that reckoned it was KFC last night. But that's to be human, right?
Thank you, Mr. Catherine.
That it?
We'll contact you to come down the station for a statement.
Right.
You think he wanted a medal?
What do you reckon?
Well, let's get him down to pathology. Confirm they're human. Is he home?
At work, apparently. Job centre, Kentish Town. What do you want to do?
Well, I guess we wait.
Aye. Knew you were going to say that.
Dennis Nilsson.
Alright.
My name is Detective Chief Inspector Peter J, and this is Detective Inspector Steve McCusker. We'd like to talk to you about your drains.
That's why the police are interested in drains.
Let's talk about that upstairs, shall we?
Alright. What's this about?
Human remains have been found in the drains outside.
Right. Come on in. Don't worry, she's very friendly.
Right, don't muck me about. Where's the rest of the body?
In the cupboard.
Dennis Nilsson, I'm arresting you on the suspicion of murder. You do not have to say anything unless you wish to do so, but what you do say may be given in evidence.
Don't let anyone up there till the pathologist gets here.
So we're talking about one body or two?
15 or 16, I think.
So, what do we know?
At least one victim. Partial remains found in a bin liner in his cupboard. A young male, judging by the torso.
Going by the smell in the flat, I'd say there were a lot more.
There's no actual evidence of 16 bodies, is there?
It's off limits till morning, too damp. We've secured the scene, but apparently we risk contamination if we go in too early.
Look, what he was saying in the car was pretty convincing, Gov.
Why were you talking to him in the car?
Well,
What if he says that confession was given under duress? If he's telling the truth, we're going to have the eyes of the world on us. We have to do this by the book from now on. We need him to identify the remains before we can charge him. What do you reckon?
I think we're going to get a lot more bees with honey than with vinegar.
Thank you.
Sorry for the late call, Ronnie.
No, it's okay. I'd like a few minutes with my client, if it's possible. We're doing it in there,
Yeah,
right?
I thought it'd be a bit more comfortable for everyone.
Thank you.
This evening, 2 police officers entered your flat. There they found the remains of a man. Do you want to explain that?
In what context?
How did it get there?
Have you searched the rest of the flat yet?
We're in the process of that as we speak.
You'll find more in the tea chest in my bedroom and in the turned-up drawer in my bathroom. All in all, the remains of 3 people.
In the car, you said that there was more.
I must advise my client.
195 Melrose Avenue, N2. There, you'll find the remains of 12 or 13 people dating back to 1978. Actually, a relief to get this off my chest. Thank you.
Who do all these remains belong to?
I need a moment with my
That's
client.
okay. I'm afraid I don't remember the names.
None of them?
Well, at the time, I'd only just met them.
Where did you meet them?
All over, bars, on the street. Some I just wanted to give a meal. London can be a lonely place sometimes. A friendly face goes a long way.
So they were homeless?
Some, because of the drugs, usually. It really is a disease. It's very sad. And this bloody government does nothing for them.
Were they all male?
Aye.
How old were they?
Oh, some look younger than others. So I'm not being very helpful.
No, you're doing fine. How did you kill them?
I strangled them.
Where did these murders take place?
In my house. Mostly on my bed, to be specific.
So they came home with you willingly?
Yeah.
Were they all homosexual?
Don't remember asking them.
Are you homosexual, Mr. Nilsson?
Well, for the sake of convenience, you should probably class me as homosexual. If that's actually true, I'm not so sure.
The three in Cranley Gardens, when did these murders take place?
The most recent was 3 weeks ago. The others last year, something.
You kept them for a year?
Aye.
In pieces?
No, the dissection's merely for disposal. That's the dirty platter after the feast, if you like. No, in Melrose, it was simple because it was a ground floor flat, so there was space under the floorboards for storage and sole access to a garden, and a clearance was called for. Yeah, no, I remember at Melrose when the bodies began to accumulate, I knew there'd be a smell problem, so at the weekend, I'd take up the floorboards, get blind and drunk, so I could face it, put down sort of, black plastic like a bin liner for the mess, and I'd start dissection on the kitchen floor. Now, I learned if you make an incision just below the navel, you can pretty much get everything without having to deal with the rib cage and such. And it was all trial and error.
You buried them in the garden?
No, I burnt them. I wrapped them in an old piece of carpet and I threw a tire on top to hide the smell. I took no pleasure in cutting up people or boiling heads or burning bodies. I did it because I had to. There was no more space.
How many bodies did you have in the house at any one time?
Well, I never did a stock check.
Or asked their names, it seems.
No, that I do regret. Yeah, I wish I could remember their names to tell you now. I really do.
I have to ask, why did you do this?
Well, I don't really know. I was hoping you could tell me that.
Take us through them all one by one.
Well, number 3, he was a young-looking man I picked up at Euston Station. I was out on the piss that night, drinking heavily. The next morning, he was dead on the floor. I remember bits and pieces. I don't remember any violence at all. Whilst drinking in Soho, I got into a conversation with a Scottish guy. Number 11 was a skinhead type. He had cut here, tattooed on his neck. He was boasting about his toughness, about his hardness. After telling him, I just went to bed. End of day, end of drink, and end of person. The 12th was a young man who sat on my legs. I can't move my legs. I'm calling an ambulance. Number 14, I made him an omelette, and he said he wanted something to eat. If it was the omelette that killed him on me, I'm not so sure, but I don't suppose omelettes leave red marks on a neck, do they?
What do you think, Gov?
I'm thinking there's a lot of words on those pages, but not a lot of concrete evidence.
You think he's lying?
About the amount? Possibly.
I don't know, Gov. There's something... I believe him.
Well, let's get a victim's name and charge him. Right. Better update the yard.
Bring that up a bit.
What's this? This is the detective, Jay, right?
Charlotte Proctor.
You went to the press?
Well, you seemed like you didn't believe me, so I had to tell someone.
Can you confirm the remains you found were human?
Detective, have you arrested Mr. Nielsen yet?
Dad, I wouldn't follow you.
How didn't we know? When I got there this morning, there was a journo a few doors down from Cranley Gardens with the drain guy from yesterday.
That didn't take him long, did it?
Right. Media blackout from now on, boys. They get nothing from us. Understood?
Yep.
Last thing we need is an early siege before we charge him.
Where are we at with everything else? Chris, did you search his office?
We weren't allowed to.
What do you mean?
His colleagues said they couldn't believe he would do anything like this, and if we wanted to search the office, we'd need to get a warrant.
Kidding me.
Take down one of the bags we found in his flat, and maybe that would act as a warrant.
Anything else from the lab?
Yeah, Bowen's confirmed strangulation as a cause of death.
Well, that was quick.
Yeah, well, one of the pieces we took down had a ligature mark on it.
Has he been able to identify anyone?
No, not yet.
So all of this is irrelevant until he gives us a name.
He used to be a policeman.
What? Where?
In the Met, Willesden. Left in '73.
Why did he leave?
Nothing on file. He just left.
Shit.
Are you fucking with us?
Mr. Chambers.
You're ex-police. You left that out last night.
I didn't mention it because it's not relevant.
Not relevant.
No, I wasn't doing this while I was there, so it's not relevant. Well, not at the present time, anyhow. Well, it's in nobody's interest for me to lie.
Why did you leave?
Homophobia.
A name, right now.
Mr. Nielsen, you don't have to say anything.
Like I said to you last night, Last one was Scottish. We said how shite Scotland was in the winter. Scottish name. Stephen. Who's Stephen?
Stephen what?
Oh, I'm sorry, I really don't remember.
I think now would be a good time to pause the interview anyway.
No, let's keep going.
Steve? Yeah. Get me a list of all Stephens reported missing from Scotland.
I think that's going to be a pretty long list, Gov.
That's all we got. Do it.
I've got your number.
Well, I want to help the officers and the men caught up in my mess.
Mr. Chambers, may I have a minute with my client?
As I see it, a solicitor's here to advise and facilitate my legal rights. Am I correct? Huh? Then your advice should have been to tell the detectives everything.
There's still a process, Mr. Nielsen.
Mr. Moss, I won't be needing you any longer.
I don't advise this.
No, it's my final decision. It's the only way we're going to get to the bottom of this mess once and for all. So if you could, please.
Mr. Chambers.
Right.
Should we carry on? I was at McDonald's on the way to Oxford Street Station. He said he hadn't eaten all day. I don't know what I meant to say that. He had blonde hair. Well, so did some of the others. Stephen, blonde hair, Scottish. I can't remember his second name.
Just take your time. Take us through it again. You went home. What happened then?
We drank, we laughed. I poured 2 large glasses of rum and coke. He said, "Oh, you don't like rum?" I said, "Well, you didn't bloody well pay for it, didn't you?" Yeah, I had a nice laugh. I mentioned Tommy, you know the album, Tommy. He said he hadn't never heard it, so I put it on. Watched as he closed his eyes and listened to it. I thought to myself, you lucky bugger, experiencing that for the first time. Yeah. I entertained no thoughts of harming him. I had nothing but concern, affection for his future and the pain of his life.
But you did strangle him?
Afterwards, I noticed that his jeans were soaked with urine. So I wanted to wash him clean, so I took his clothes off. And I remember I had difficulty with his tight, wet jeans, but soon he was sat there, he was naked in my armchair. And he'd only urinated. I obviously hadn't had a square meal in a few days. He had deep cuts on both his wrists. They were still open. So he must have recently tried to commit suicide. And I very gently carried him through the bathroom, put talc on him, make him look cleaner. He looked magnificent. It was like one of those Michelangelo sculptures.
We need names.
I know you do, and I'm trying, but some of them are a long time ago.
And stay with the last one.
Shed, Stephen.
It's not enough, you know that. I mean, you remember so many details. There must have been a time in the evening he told you his full name. Look, all we want to do is corroborate your claims.
It was definitely a Scottish name. I mean, we joked about that. It was Fraser or Sinclair. It was Sinclair.
You're sure?
Aye, Stephen Sinclair.
If this Stephen Sinclair was a drug addict, chances are he has a record. Record will have a photo and fingerprints. We can match those to what we found at the flat.
Well, he has given us the name. Not to mention the torso in his flat. Or can't we just charge him,
And what if he's got it wrong? Or he's playing with us? Sinclair walks into our courtroom alive and well, and there goes the credibility. You know that. No mistakes, no shortcuts. We need to be good police.
Peter, it doesn't feel right giving him the blue ribbon treatment here.
Whilst he's talking, we carry on treating him well. Understood?
Yes, Gov. Yes, Gov.
Yes, Gov. Is it necessary to still have Leap here? It's been 2 days.
Well, there's nothing we can do about that.
She's an old dog. Sounds like she's in a lot of distress. Please, she's done nothing wrong. She doesn't deserve this.
I'll see what I can do. We won't be starting until a bit later this morning, Mr. Nielsen, but Mr. J thought you might be hungry.
Kind of, thank you. Another thing, have there been any newspaper reports about me?
There was one, yes.
Well, may I have a copy?
I'll ask.
Sinclair was young.
He just turned 20. Severe personality problems. Drug abuse.
He really didn't stand a chance, did he?
Gentlemen. Pretty grim viewing, I'm afraid. Well, as you can see, the dissection has been done to a high level of skill. It was actually quite simple to decipher which parts go with which. These are from the last victim. But his head has been boiled beyond all recognition.
Can we fingerprint him?
And this last one, absolutely. The others, probably not. Too much decay. So, would you care to know the cause of death?
Strangulation.
He was strangled, that's true. But in the autopsy, we discovered his lungs were filled with water, so death was due to drowning.
Why did you leave that out?
There's something else. Tests show he had hepatitis B, quite a common disease with needle-using heroin addicts, but if any police officer has been in its vicinity, they'll have to have a vaccination, I'm afraid.
Fuck's sake. Thank you, David.
Sinclair.
Dennis Nielsen, I am charging you with the murder of Stephen Sinclair by drowning. You will now be taken to Melrose Avenue, where you will identify the burn site of other victims. Do you understand?
Come on.
The pressure outside.
Who?
Everyone, I think.
I'll see what's out there.
I'll go and speak to them whilst you head out the back.
No, they're out there as well.
Right, Jeff, get the hood.
No, I went under high.
Nielsen, over here! Can you look at the camera, please? Nielsen, look over here! What are we looking at, detective? Give us a quote!
On Wednesday morning, officers were called to an address to investigate suspicious fragments found in a drain. Upon analysis, they were proved to be human, and an investigation was opened. We have now charged a man by the name of Dennis Nielsen with murder.
How many people do you suspect him to have murdered?
We won't be revealing the number at this time.
Can you at least say what gender he's suspected of killing?
Men.
When did Nielsen start this unusual habit?
5 years, but can you make sure you attribute the term unusual habit to Mr. Wells and not myself, please?
Inspector, how can somebody kill for 5 years without the police knowing?
We will be investigating that at the relevant time. That's all, thank you.
Just why you feel you let the people of Muswell Hill down?
it's strange being back here. Remember summers here, isn't it? Bleep was a little puppy running around. We had a vegetable patch.
Where did you have the bonfires?
I'd start here if I were you.
Okay, Dennis. You're now going to be taken to Herne Hill, where you'll stay whilst you're on remand.
Not back to the station?
No, I'm afraid not. Okay, let's go.
I just spoke to some of the boys from Willesden. So they say, rumour has it, Nilsson left the police because he was caught masturbating in the morgue. Makes it uneasy, don't it? How much we're relying on him to tell us the truth.
It was here, outside Hornsey Police Station, that police confirmed that Dennis Andrew Nielsen has been charged with the first of what is said to be multiple murders.
On Wednesday morning, officers were called to an address.
Can you help me with this?
To investigate suspicious fragments found in a drain.
Brian. Oh, sorry.
On analysis, they were proved to be human, and an investigation was opened.
What's happened? There's a multiple killer in London.
It's being reported that he was caught by the discovery of blocked drains that were filled with the remains of human flesh that Nielsen
have to go to work.
down the lavatory. It is also being reported that his victims were men that Nielsen had lured back to his flat on the sense of promised frivolity.
Mr. Sinclair?
Yes.
My name is Detective Chief Inspector Peter J. Are you the parent of Stephen Sinclair?
Before you say any more, officer, Stephen doesn't live here anymore. He hasn't done since he started stealing from us to fund his habit. We don't even know where he is at the moment.
Mr. Sinclair, can we come in?
Elizabeth!
A few days ago, a body was found. That body, I'm sorry to say, has now been confirmed as Stephen. A man has been charged in connection with his murder.
His murder?
I'm sorry to say, we can't give you much information at present, but we will as soon as we can. In the meantime, if there's anything that you need...
Can I see him?
I'm afraid that's not possible, Mrs. Sinclair.
But surely we need to identify him.
He's already been identified.
But how? Has somebody come in to see him? I want to see him. Maybe somebody's made a mistake.
Mrs. Sinclair, it's Stephen. I can't tell you how sorry I am to be sure of that. But you don't want to see him. Not like this.
I told him something like this would happen. But that drug, it changed him. There's nothing we could do. It was a love. He wouldn't listen to us no matter how hard we tried. Just thought of us as a hotel, a bank, or a
prison.
Not now, Neil.
I'm sorry.
Brian?
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Anything good?
Oh, no, not really. It's just all so salacious.
He just looks so ordinary. It's like someone you'd walk past in the street or meet in a bank.
You see, well, that's what makes the whole thing so intriguing. This dichotomy between this seemingly normal, unobtrusive civil servant and the nature of his crimes. It just seems so hard to fathom.
What's there to fathom?
Well, what makes most of us go one way with our lives and others, like Nielsen, go so far in the opposite direction?
Probably because he's evil. I'm going to be late. See you tonight.
The man currently being questioned by police is a 37-year-old civil servant, Andrew Nielsen, known to his colleagues at work as Des. For the past 6 months, he's been working here at the Manpower Services Commission in London's Kentish town. I understand that he's also a former policeman, having been in the force for about a year in the early 70s.
Really surprised. Where'd they get the fire from? Not us.
They probably rubbed it.
If I find out any of you tip them off about him being ex-police, I'll personally drag you to the fucking committee myself! Do you hear me? We are in blackout. That means you don't mention his name outside this station, not to your wives, your mistresses, your friends down the pub. You understand? This man killed on our patch for 4 years. We find every name and we charge and convict him with every single fucking one. He gets away with nothing. Get rid.
Come in. This gentleman's here about Nielsen. He wants to talk to you, Gov.
What can I do for you? Dennis Nielsen tried to kill me.
Where did you meet him?
Pub, the Golden Lion. It's Dean Street, Soho. But I'm not gay.
No, of course.
He was with a group of people who I assume were his friends. After last orders, he said we should go back to his for a drink. I thought he meant all of us, but it was only the two of us that went. I must have passed out because when I came to, he tied my ankles together with his tie and he was strangling me with mine. I managed to fight him off and get him to the ground. Then he started screaming, take my money. Take my money, like I was the one attacking him.
Sorry, when was this?
3 years ago. I put it to the back of my mind. Moved on. And when I saw his face in the newspaper, it all came back.
Why didn't you go to the police at the time?
I did. Straight away. They took me back there. They were there for 5 minutes. I spoke to Nelson and bought his story that it was a lover's tiff. It wasn't something they wanted to be around. They even apologised to him for wasting his time. Sent me on my way.
Okay, we're just gonna have to go from the beginning. Leave nothing out.
So how many of these has he written to you?
Well, the fourth came today, and there's a poem in the last one.
Lives of sorrow, bones of the dead, given by the sea to fitful head. It's so sensitive.
Well, quite. You wouldn't think by reading that this man strangled young men and then disposed of them down the lavatory, would you?
How is the prison allowing you to meet him?
He said he'd put me on the visitors list.
Although they're probably not aware that I'm a writer.
Well, aren't you frightened?
No, he's hardly going to jump over the desk and strangle me, is he?
No, but still. Do you think you'll shake his hand?
No, I shouldn't think so.
Name?
Brian Masters to see Dennis Nilsson.
Finder's okay. You smoke, Brian?
Yes, I do.
You can smoke as many real fags in this room as you like, yeah? Out there, you're only allowed tobacco, so. Oh. Yeah. They say capital punishment's dead, but Her Majesty manages to find her little ways, you know? Yes. I read your book, Brian. The Dukes. Origin, Ennoblement, and the History of 26 Families. Are you from aristocracy?
No. No, I'm not.
You're from that kind of world, though, eh? I bet you're a bloody Tory.
I'm not sure that's entirely relevant.
I'm not entirely sure of your intentions as of yet. Yeah? Your letters sounded genuine, but now we're sat opposite each other. I worry. I have judged myself more harshly than any casual observer, any court ever could.
Aren't you the one judging me, Mr. Nilsson?
How's that?
Oh, you hear my accent and you assume that you know everything about me.
No, I'm simply stating it's obvious where you come from. I'm not... It's not a bad thing. I just like to know where I stand with the person I'm talking to.
Well, I was brought up on the Old Kent Road.
You don't sound like you were brought up on the Old Kent Road.
Well, I was lucky. I got an education.
Ah, is that where the accent comes from, is your education, is it?
I was under the impression that I was here to discuss writing a book about you. I'm really not that interesting.
Why would you want to write about a monster like me?
You do consider yourself to be a monster?
Well, have you read the paper?
Of course.
It totally amazes me that people's attraction to the macabre. Because all of us have skeletons rattling around in our cupboards, you know? And secrets they would never dare to tell to anyone. So what comes is this flood of self-righteous public condemnation, whilst simultaneously everybody's talking about it over and over and over. They're consuming it and indulging in it, but at arm's length.
I'm
which is
not
all
here
very
to
well,
do that.
but meanwhile, I'm left here to rot, whilst others make profits at my expense.
Well, listen, if you want some money from this, I'm sure that we can come to some arrangement.
I don't want a penny for ass. I just don't want those poor men exploited.
Well, I'm not here to exploit you or those 17 young men that you murdered.
15 was 15. Wasn't 17, it was 15. See, now, if you're going to get your information from those red-top fuckers telling lies about me every day, we might as well say goodbye now, Brian. I have a responsibility for my story and theirs to be told correctly.
Well, I also have that responsibility. Now, I have no want to write some two-bit horror novel, ghoulish adjectives. I'm not here to elaborate or expose or excuse. I'm here to comprehend, because the law cannot comprehend, beyond the question of guilty or innocent.
And how do you propose to do that?
By listening. I want to know about your upbringing, your teenage years, your time in the army. All of it. Because only by doing that do we get the whole picture, Mr. Nilsson.
I must warn you, Brian. You will find a full inquiry into my life and deeds distressing.
I'm aware of that.
Well, I pass the burden of my past and deeds onto your shoulders. Make sure you bring an extra pack of fags next time, eh? Please call me Des.